B96, Chicago's #1 hit music station. Good morning, I'm Greg Murray. This is Chicago Connection, a public affairs program designed to give you information about goods and services that can benefit you. You may remember a few months ago, we covered this topic of an organization called Erie House, Erie Neighborhood House. And the whole idea of Erie House is something that the average public may not know about. But we want you to know about it because it's such an intricate portion of today's society in Chicagoland, because there are a lot of people who use the services of Erie House, and many people don't know about Erie House. So we're going to tell you a little bit about Erie House, and then we're going to talk about something more specific: children. And we'll talk about children's welfare, children's care, and things of that nature. In studio with us this morning to help us talk about this, her name is Celena Roldan. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Fabulous. You didn't answer my question. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, Celena, when it comes to Erie House, you know a little bit about it. Tell us about Erie House.
I do know a little bit about Erie House. Erie House is actually one of the original settlement houses here in Chicago. It's been in existence longer than the Chicago Fire, for approximately 138 years.
Wow.
And it is still doing some of the very same services that it did 138 years ago, which is providing education, advocacy, training for immigrant population here in Chicago. It was originally a different immigrant population, but now we're serving predominantly Latino working families.
Okay, so what's the criteria for someone to get help from Erie House?
Anyone that's looking to better themselves and is looking for a place, an open place of self-determination and advocacy. We have various programs such as childcare, youth programming, adult education, technology, computer classes, citizenship. Those are all open to anyone here in the city of Chicago.
So is it for low income?
Predominantly low income families. Predominantly low income families. Some of the programs have no fee at all. Some are a sliding fee. Particularly our childcare program are focused on low-income working families.
Let's talk about that a bit. Low-income families, mom, dad, both have to work, and they're having a real tough time making ends meet as it is, but now they have to find a way to get child care. How does that happen?
Absolutely. Child care is one of the most expensive costs that families have to deal with, also in addition to education. So many times families, unless they're able to find affordable care, have to look to babysitters, family members, other ways to be able to provide for them so that they can work. Mm-hmm. So what Erie House does is provide affordable child care options for families. And I think the other important thing that I want to emphasize is high quality. Because often when you're talking about affordable, it doesn't mean high quality. And I think that that's very important to our mission, that just because you're poor doesn't mean that you don't deserve the best, highest quality as if you were paying full price in any other type of program.
I think that's very high quality information for the average parent who's thinking about using Erie House or any other child care facility. They want to be sure that just because they're paying a little less than, say, the upper crest would be, then, you know, they want to be sure that their child is going to be cared for properly without, you're from a low-income family. I'm not really caring about you very much. No, that won't happen at Erie House.
Exactly. So that's why in other programs, some families can pay up to $15,000, $16,000, $18,000 a year for childcare for their children. Again, we're talking about before they go to kindergarten. Mm-hmm. At Erie House, they may have a copay of $150, $100, $50, depending on their income. Mm-hmm. But yet what we actually pay per child, when you look at our staff ratios, our staff credentials, all of our other support services, we approximately pay about $13,000 to $14,000 per child in terms of care.
That is really good. So where does Erie House get the funds for this?
Well, we'll take money from whoever will give it to us, but we're predominantly funded through government funding. Okay. So we receive state funding, Head Start funding, which is federal program, as well as Preschool for All, which is the state funding as well, and we're also helped out through funding through the city.
Because of the economy right now, is Erie House at risk of losing their government funding?
What's a challenge right now is we're not so much at risk for losing our state funding or our federal funding, but it affects the eligibility of families to be able to bring their children to us. Okay. Families need to be working, obviously, and as you know, unemployment is at a 15-year high, and so if some of our families are getting laid off, if that impacts us because their children can become ineligible for our program.
Okay. Now, how can someone get in contact with Erie House?
Very easily. We actually have an intake department that is always available with a phone number is 312-432-2218. Evelyn Corona is our wonderful intake department coordinator that can take all of those calls and answer those questions. And also, of course, our website, www.eriehouse.org, has all the information about all of our programs, not just excluding childcare, but all the other services that we provide for the city.
So people are driving and they're busy and they say, oh, I need that number. I need that information. Here it is again, 312-432-2218. That's 312-432-2218. Also, it's eriehouse.org. eriehouse.org. Celena, when my children were growing up, mom was at home for them. Okay, she was able to be there for them. But in today's society, today's economy, mom isn't always able to be there for her or him. Erie House makes it easier for mom to be able to do a job and take care of her children without the risk of coming and finding that their child has been given to someone that is not responsible for that child. Erie House is responsible enough to take care of the children.
Absolutely. And I think that, again, when you're talking about just being responsible for a child is one thing, but we don't set the bar there. We take the bar much higher to talk about, look at the population that we're serving, look at what makes them an at-risk population, and then add services, programming, training to impact that. So if we know that 60% of Hispanic children under the age of 3 are 200% or below of the poverty level, then we need to look at those risk factors for predominantly Hispanic families and say, what do we need to do to make sure that these children can compete later on in school and be successful and be productive citizens as well. And so we look at our curriculum and adding additional supports, one about what makes us unique and individual in this childcare community. One of the things that we actually have is a partnership with Jumpstart, which is a nationwide literacy effort. We have an internal program called Health Leaders, which was actually a program that was developed through Erie to look at health and wellness, not only for our children, but our parents, our staff, doing all types of things about individual health and wellness, nutrition, to look at issues like childhood obesity. We really pride ourselves on our teacher education levels, our lower ratios, so we're able to provide a 1-to-8 ratio in our 3, 4, and 5-year-old classrooms and a 1-to-4 ratio in our toddler program.
You know, it sounds really good. So good that people who are listening who are making too much money, they can't use Erie House, are probably saying to themselves, why? Why can't we have this type of service and, you know, at a facility that, you know, I can afford, well, that you know, I can use. You know, it's amazing. So it's really good that Erie House is offering these services and at the caliber and quality that they're offering them. And for those who are eligible, then they should take advantage of it. You do accept donations from people outside of the government to help with the funding of Erie House.
Absolutely. Private funding is another huge piece of what we count on. Our partnerships, our relationships with our local museums, all those pieces that really add to us being able to provide a comprehensive, holistic program that not only impacts the child, but the family. And a lot of those things that come from, obviously, government money has a lot of restrictions, a lot of things that you need to do this and that, and points A and B, and if it doesn't fit, you're not able to pay for that. So that's really where private funding comes in, is allows us to kind of take it to the next level and do all the other pieces that we like to do in terms of implementing a lending library or a parent resource center, some of those other things that our government dollars may not be able to do.
Great. In closing, what information would you tell someone if you had, like, say, 15 seconds to talk to them and tell them what it is that you have to tell them about Erie House or the child care services at Erie House? What would you say?
I would say that Erie House is one of the best, affordable, high-quality child care programs in the city. And I know this not only because I'm the director, but because my 4-year-old son also attends the program. And it's something that I have been able to see not only as a director, but as a parent, and seeing my child grow and develop and excel in that type of a setting has just been an amazing thing.
Celena Roldan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, the contact information, 312-432-2218. That's 312-432-2218. Or log on to eriehouse.org. That's eriehouse.org.